Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, the place where we not only talk about what's going on in the gun world, but also how we're going to fix it together. And the content that I've got for you tonight is going to make blood pop out of your head. I'm pretty sure it's going to happen because Chris Murphy, Mr. Gun Control in the Senate, has outdone himself in some new Senate amendments he put forward for the defense spending bills. This is going to blow your mind. Everything will be linked in the description box below to prove how crazy and verifiable this is. And of course, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on. We would love to have you dispense freedom twice daily with us, and thank you for that consideration. All right, so my brothers and sisters, a lot of you know Chris Murphy. A lot of you are aware. We hit on him quite a lot on this channel because he's that much of a gun infringer. He really is. That's his whole point, his whole brand in the Senate is to infringe upon the Second Amendment rights under the guise of safety and control, but he still wants to take everybody's guns. That's kind of the thing. It's the unspoken word, right? Well, I'm going to kind of set the table for you. This is what he said about a week and a half, 3 weeks ago. I don't know. I can't remember the exact date. But this is what he has to say about due process rights in a Senate Bipartisan Safer Communities Act bill.
So this was probably one of the last things we ended up getting done.
It's a tricky business.
And those due process rights that now apply to every blue state, in addition to every red state, are in there because, people like Tom were driving a hard bargain.
People like Tom, the Republican senator from North Carolina, was really driving a hard bargain, so we had to put due process rights in a bill. What? Okay, so not only is that insane, but now you know where he stands. Let me show you what the paragon of gun control in the Senate, the model, the incredible genius, has put forward here. Let's get going. Mr. Murphy submitted an amendment intended to be proposed by him to Bill Senate 2226 to authorize appropriations for the fiscal year. Okay, well, let's see what that was about. I'm going to talk about this because this hurts my feelings. Waiting periods and notification requirements for firearm purchases on military installations. Part A, waiting periods. Notwithstanding any other provision of law, the Secretary of Defense shall require, quote, a 7-day waiting period before an individual may purchase a firearm sold on a military installation, and a 4-day waiting period before any individual may purchase ammunition sold on a military installation for a firearm purchased by the individual on a military installation. So 7-day waiting period for someone who's going to fight for our rights in this country. No, they have to be subjected to a mandatory 7-day waiting period. And if they wanted to buy ammo for said 7-day waiting period firearm, that's going to be 4 more days for a grand total of probably about 11 days. I mean, after all, we can't have mistakes, and the proper amount of time has got to go for the people who defend our rights and go through all those background checks to see if they can really have a firearm. The level of dumb is impressive, particularly since this is a reoccurring background check every time they want to buy ammo on base. But anyway, let's go to part B, because now we got to get to the notifications, because it's important that we know where every single firearm is all the time, every time, and we have lots of reports and paperwork. Sarcasm. Notifications. Notwithstanding any other provision of law, the Secretary shall require MWR retail facilities as defined in Section 10063 of Title 10 United States Code and any other firearms vendors on a military installation to notify the Provost Marshal or equivalent and military commander for the installation when a member of the armed forces, a family member of such a member, or a civilian employee of the department purchases a firearm on the installation. So we've got the Department of Defense employee. That's civilian contractors, so that's everybody. You've got the armed service member. Well, they're there. And then you got their family members. So basically, anything that happens on that Department of Defense base or installation, I don't feel like this is A, fair, or B, constitutional. But that doesn't matter. This is about amendments and really proving how loyal you are and your fealty to the gun control movement. Again, see due process video that I just did. But he wasn't done there. He's got a second one. And if you are going to do a second one, you might as well really send it home and outdo the first one. Check this out. Senate Amendment 730. Mr. Murphy submitted an amendment intended to be proposed by him to the bill, Senate 2226, to authorize appropriations, blah, blah, blah. We already talked about that stuff. Restriction of privately owned firearms on property of Department of Defense. Wait a minute. So now it's a restriction? That's weird because he just put forward another bill or amendment that didn't. Anyway. The Secretary of Defense shall establish a policy for the Department of Defense that 1. Prohibits the possession and storage of privately owned firearms in military barracks and dormitories, and 2. Prohibits the possession of privately owned firearms that are not related to the performance of official duties on property of the department by anyone who does not live on property of the department. So you're just going to ban all firearms by anyone who doesn't live on the actual property. But those that do live on the property, well, they can't have them either. So you're just banning them. Now, again, keep in mind, this is a sitting senator who said those due process rights really had to be negotiated in because they drove a hard bargain. Due process rights are there automatically, Mr. Murphy. They don't just come out and come in as you please because you think you're God around gun control. Because after all, you are a senator who doesn't understand due process rights. But now we've got to do background checks, mandatory waiting periods for 7 days for firearms on base, 4 days for ammo, and you know what? While we're at it, let's just say none of them are allowed. Now, of course, these are all amendments, and these probably won't go through, but it shows you where this guy's head is at. Due process rights. Okay, fine, we'll negotiate them in only because you drive a tough bargain. Then you got mandatory waiting periods for service members who are literally risking their lives and their time and their mental state, their physical state for this country. No. They're going to have to also do background checks and extended waiting periods, even though the United States government does the most extensive background check on them already because they're enlisted. Other than that, no big deal. And you know what? Since we're at it, let's just not have guns on bases. That's who we're dealing with. This is a no-prisoner approach, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.